Hello. Good evening. Welcome to Earth and to this evening's launch of Network, big issue number 3. Uh, Feel free to stick around afterwards and join us for drinks and pizza and music with Daniel Keller and Perfect Angel Protection Force. And you have been already listening to Chich P. But now, to introduce this evening's readings, I'm going to hand you over to the editors of the magazine. Please give it up for the incredible duo behind the big one, Johanna Stone and Gabby Soanes.
Thank you so much for that intro.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming out on a Sunday.
And I'm glad that the basketball game wasn't more important. We were going to project it.
We're trying to figure out how to project the game maybe after the reading. So if anyone has an ESPN subscription, let us know.
It's something else.
Okay, wherever that's streaming, let us know. And thanks. Happy second day of summer.
Yeah.
We would like to thank all of our wonderful contributors from issue 3.
Of the big one?
Of the big one network.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we wanted to thank Angeline, the Billboard Queen, the original influencer who we had an interview with featured, as well as
Diva Corp,
as well as Annika Gavlak,
Priya Kb,
Eugene Kotlyarenko,
Evan Laffer,
Moses Maschu,
Sean Monahan,
Mia Marie Morongel,
Rina Nicolae,
Tom O'Neill, who was also an interview.
Yes, thank you, Tom O'Neill, Lena Redford,
Zeke Reef Hogan,
Riska Saval,
and Delicious Tacos. Thank you very much to our wonderful contributors. Please buy an issue of the magazine to read their work. And then we also wanted to do a quick thank you to our wonderful artists that we included because it really is kind of an individual group show in each issue. And so we wanted to thank Jared Madera,
May Noland,
Jacob Fenton,
Zeke, Eli. Zeke is a writer.
Eli
Hauser,
Philip Kostick,
Catherine Mulligan,
and memes by Tom Tuna and Cold Healing. So thank you to our artists as well. So we're getting started with the readings tonight. We wanted to bring up our first reader who is featured in the magazine, the wonderful Moses Maschu.
Thank you, Gabby and Joe, for having me. I'm going to read. So, what was published in the magazine is an excerpt of a book that was put out by Village Idiot Press in 2023. But I mostly wrote these poems while I was working at a museum gift shop packing online orders. And I was trying to figure out how to write poems. And I thought that if I included one fact, that I could kind of then just write whatever I wanted because it was true. So this is called In July, I Moved to Koreatown. And the Ishtar got his wish. Western and Third was a different scene, man. Picture the time before cars. It was a difficult ascent. Atop the mountain, me and caveman buddies observed the meteor. It replaced dinosaurs with lapis lazuli, mosques, scented fans, black top and veiled openings. Future oil throbbed subcutaneous. We held our horses, steeds dumber than stupidity. Purple thunder and low rain sighted, a movie. The ferns and succulents quit the old place. They left pillars in their absence. We used the pillars and the ferns to decorate our life's mockumentary. Myopic stars for the occasion. The next night we went out with some hunter-gatherers from college. Dinner was served on a subway car. There was a fire or a blackout. Thank you. Thanks. This next poem is called In July, I Moved to Koreatown. And every Ishtar will get his wish. Find it if it can be found in the crush and din. It was a different scene, man, in the time before cars. It was a difficult ascent, man. From atop the mountain, me and my caveman buddies observed the meteor. It replaced dinosaurs with lapis lazuli mosques, scented fans and veiled openings. Future oil throbbed subcutaneous. We held our horses, steeds dumber than stupidity. Purple thunder brought onto the plain from a movie. The ferns and succulents quit the old place. They left pillars in their absence. The pillars and the ferns decorate our life's mockumentary. Myopic stars for the occasion. Newly addled, newly able, newly drift. The next night we went out with some hunter-gatherers from college. Dinner was served on a subway car. There was a fire or a blackout. Thank you. This next poem is called In July I Moved to Koreatown. And every Ishtar will get his wish, a heartland miracle from the time before cars. Ascending was more difficult. From atop the mountain, me and my caveman buddies observed the meteor. It replaced dinosaurs with lapis lazuli mosques, scented fans and veiled openings. Future oil throbbed subcutaneous. We held our horses, steeds dumber than stupidity. Purple thunder rolls onto the movie's plain. The ferns and succulents quit the old place, leaving pillars to decorate our life's mockumentary. 2 words emerge from this: great acoustics. 2 more myopic stars for the occasion. The next night we went out with some hunter-gatherers. Dinner was served on a subway car. There was a fire or a blackout. Thank you. This is the last poem I'll read from that book. It's called In July I Moved to Koreatown. And every Ishtar will get her wish. In the time before cars, ascending the mountain was more difficult. Its mere existence a heartland miracle. From our view atop Western and 3rd, me and my caveman buddies observed the meteor. It replaced dinosaurs with lapis lazuli mosques, illuminated scented fans and openings as if we had discovered them. Future oil throbbed subcutaneous. We held our horses, steeds dumber than stupidity. Purple thunder sighted on the plain, but it's just a movie, like life, and the ferns and succulents too will quit the old place, leaving a clear view of our small mockumentary, plus great acoustics. Order 2 more myopic stars for the occasion. The next night we're going out with some hunter-gatherers from college. Dinner was served on a subway car. There was a fire or a blackout. So that's that book. And that's available for purchase as well. There's a few more poems in that as well, but I was told 5 to 7 minutes. I'm gonna read one more thing, and then I'm gonna get out of here. But and this is not the one more thing that I was gonna read. This is the one more thing I was gonna read. It's written more recently when I was kind of feeling more optimistic about things. It's called Apartments, and it's dedicated to my friend Sam O'Brien. The first part should be a mastication, the full hands of it compressing arable land into more or less squalor, the full-throated defense of which we heard from across the hall. Not folks we live with, exactly, but sharers of this rare air, the dreamed days we live in. The room, a clock, the sun precisely, someone's instrument practice, woodwind. Did we do this, or did it just happen? Some of it grew on us, definitely, and the rest we acquired for the oft-predicted blizzard, which was a letdown. We had expected to be snowbound, but winnowing now would get us nowhere. Nothing lived up to our expectations. So there was a second part, involving locusts and a room that snowed. Everything you own was deemed unrecognizable, and a full cup of it was pressed to your lips in secret, while that was still harmless and fun. I was the little man at the foot of your bed giving the weather report, which earned me lots of kisses and happy clapping, but the last part of the trick was to forget everything, like drying off after wading through a stream. From the opposite bank, we looked across the room, a clock, the sun precisely the way butter sizzles in a pan. Here we were. That morning, as you adjusted your socks, it was still snowing because of a pause in repayment. So the second part is still an open question, but the third part should feel like a hug. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Moses. Please pick up a copy of In July I Moved to Koreatown for the full series, if you enjoyed. We would like to welcome to the stage Rina Nicolae.
Wow, what a reading to follow. That was incredible, Moses. I am going to be reading from just an excerpt from an essay that I wrote for this issue of The Big One. It is a totally true story about Harvard's final clubs, which, if you don't know what those are, they are a cross between basically a secret society and a really fancy frat. Late one night, in my Kansas bedroom, I'd stumbled on a page on the Harvard Crimson's website. The 15 hottest freshmen. Every year, the editors of the student newspaper selected the 15 most beautiful new faces on campus and compiled them into a series of profiles, asking about their favorite date activities, their plans for the future, and what it meant to be hot. This led me deeper into Harvard's social taxonomy, and it didn't take long for me to find the ecosystem's apex predator, the final clubs, the secretive, mostly male social organizations that had had a presence since Harvard's early days, looming just outside the university's gates in Harvard Square's historic brownstone mansions, real estate holdings that were now priceless. Photos of the house's interiors remain noticeably absent from the internet. I thought about the Illuminati conspiracy theories my dad had told me about. I pictured him pulling a crisp dollar bill from his wallet and pointing to the glowing eye above the pyramid on the back. The New World Order. They're always watching. The story of Harvard's final clubs began with a pig. In 1791, just 3 years after the Constitution, a student brought a squealing pig into his dorm to torment the proctor on the floor below. Thinking one step ahead, when faculty threatened to search the room, he roasted the pig and hosted an impromptu feast with some classmates, a dinner that would spawn over 2 centuries of institutional power. By 1793, these gatherings had formalized into the Porcellian Club, colloquially known as the PC. The clubs that followed continued to expand this shadow network of elite society beyond Harvard's walls. The AD and the Fly Club both emerged in 1836, followed by the Delphic in 1846 and the Spee in 1852. The end of the century brought a final wave, the Phoenix SK, the Owl, and the Fox. Their membership lists charted a genealogy of American influence. Oliver Wendell Holmes, William Randolph Hearst, the Rockefellers, the Roosevelts, the Kennedys, the Kushners. From the beginning, the university maintained an uneasy relationship with the clubs, viewing them as bastions of aristocratic privilege that undermined Harvard's increasingly democratic aspirations. But the club's power and independence from university control rested in their influential alumni networks and their ownership of real estate. A cold wind blew through the yard, scattering the wisp of smoke between Augie and me. Well then, you must be all set with your shadowy elite Deerfield connections, I teased, careful not to betray my piqued interest in what he was saying. He shook his head. There's no way I'm setting foot in there, full of elitist assholes. And I'd have to wait till next year anyway. The clubs are strictly off limits to guys until punch season, he added, referencing the club's membership selection process at the beginning of sophomore year. But freshman girls are fair game. Check your email. I took out my phone and I opened my Harvard inbox. I saw the message near the top. Sender, the Phoenix SK Club. Subject line, you're invited. Ha, I knew it, he said, taking my phone to look. They pick the girls by the hotness of their picture in the student directory. The next weekend, I joined the growing line of girls curling around the Phoenix Club, known on campus only as the PSK. We bounced up and down on bare legs that poked out from under giant puffer coats, partially from excitement, but mostly to keep ourselves warm in the freezing drizzle. The girl in front of me, with silky dark hair that hung down to her waist and long acrylic fingernails, tapped out a salvo of texts. She confided in me that she and her sexy friends had gotten bussed over from Boston University due to the shortage of sexy girls at Harvard. It was a common practice, especially at the PSK, she said, gesturing to a luxury bus parked around the corner. 20 minutes later, we reached the door and told our names to the tuxedoed bouncer, a round man in his 50s with slick back hair, who checked them against a list he guarded tightly against his chest. He opened the door just a crack, just enough for us to slip inside. "Welcome, ladies," he said. We stepped into a spacious old room, its dark wood floors creaking beneath our heels. The BU girls showed me where to dump my coat in a pile on the floor and cautioned that it could get stolen and that it happened all the time. Pretty soon, the boys began to swarm. They were timid and nerdy and dressed in suit jackets and pressed shirts and expensive loafers. Most were already drunk and slurring their words. One of them asked me what I thought I'd be concentrating in. When I mentioned English, his face lit up. "April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of dead land, mixing memory and desire," he whispered in my ear, quoting Fox Club alumnus T.S. Eliot. He asked for my number. I gave it. I made my way upstairs into a red-carpeted hall, dimly lit by a massive crystal chandelier. An ornate fireplace dominated the far wall, and the girls danced to loud music beneath the high ceilings. Kids were crawling out of the large windows and onto the balcony to smoke joints and cigarettes. In the courtyard below, sheltered by ivy-covered brick walls, there was a large ice luge, sculpted into the shape of a phoenix. The boys were taking turns, dropping live goldfish down it, catching them in their mouths, and chasing them with vodka. All the club's parties were some variation on this, except for the ice luges, which were reserved for special occasions. At the Fly Club, we played beer pong under taxidermied turkeys peering down on us from the dark wooden rafters of the trophy room, which was decorated with an assortment of taxidermied animal heads and dozens of black and white photographs of the club's former classes. In the dimly lit wood-paneled rooms of the Fox, we danced on old tables that creaked under our weight. Sometimes the clubs had alumni dinners, after which they opened their doors to a larger, though still listed, party. On those nights, the clubs were full of 50-year-old hedge fund managers. Fun. Drunk and stumbling amongst the sea of youngsters. Sometimes they groped the girls, titillated by their tight outfits, grabbing their asses or putting their hands on their waists as they sidled behind them. The girls deflected their advances with practiced ease, later locking themselves in the bathroom to mock the aging predators between fits of merciless laughter. Once, after a dinner at the AD, when the boys had finished singing the Scottish folk song that was a club tradition, a friend of mine with a library at Harvard named after his family took me upstairs to show me a cabinet of trinkets. He took out a plate painted with the outline of a bull, the club's mascot, which had been gifted by some wealthy donor or other. He turned it over to show me the signature on the back. "This is an original Picasso," he said. "Don't tell anyone I told you, though. It's special." In the Spies library, whose walls were lined with antique books and floors were lined with antique carpets, I found myself on a leather couch beneath a taxidermied bear, standing on its hind legs with its mouth open and paws aloft. Here, I was gently undressed by the sensitive son of a famous American billionaire, until he bolted up and vanished, leaving me half-dressed. I later found out that he'd absconded into the night with his best friend, the poet, who'd whispered Eliot into my ear at the PSK just a couple weeks before, and now felt betrayed by our budding romance. The men's clubs really did dominate Harvard's social scene. While the girls could still get access to the parties and the date events, the boys were rarely invited in if they weren't already members or close friends. A scattered handful of fraternities and sororities existed, but they were a last resort for those who didn't get into the final clubs and either couldn't perceive or were so desperate for connection that they didn't mind the embarrassment in joining a bottom-tier social group rather than joining none at all.
Thank you so much, Rina. We are going to be taking the Rina to Lena pipeline and hearing from another wonderful contributor, Lena Redford. Is Lena Redford here? Oh, here she comes. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is Maddie here yet? Sorries. Told her I'd hold off, but I think now's the time to begin. This is called No Worries, All Good'll. We were halfway to Anaheim, and the day felt suddenly fun. I'd wear a prom dress if they wanted me to. Neither Vanessa nor I knew exactly what the event was, just that our friend Lily needed extra hands. She had been hired by her aunt's wife's ex-business partner as a producer, which is the most useless word in all of LA, but it seemed like the sort of gig that half employs half our city. Vanessa said it was connected to this big annual food convention, Expo West, where vendors promote their new products, right by Disneyland. Not in the park, just next to it. There would be probably all sorts of free snacks. Vanessa is a professional chef, so I trusted her. The night before, I got a text from an unknown number to meet at HOB. The boss assumed I knew that meant House of Blues, but I had to ask. The boss shall go unnamed. HOB is on the upper level of Anaheim Garden Walk, a lifestyle center that opened in the middle of the 2008 financial crisis and is now voted #1 place to park on its own website. It was empty when we got there. Who are you with? Asked a face-tatted security guard. I paused. The event? He shook his head. Which event? I was trying not to giggle. Vanessa stepped in. Goodles? The security guard stuck out his chin, huh? I know, I agreed. It's, they're the host. Goodles, they're noodles. It had been 1 day since I had learned of Goodles, a boxed mac and cheese food company that contains extra protein from blended chickpeas and something else, I think. Lily had tried to explain what she could. So the event is going to be like a prom for adults in the organic food industry, sponsored by Goodles. Wait, what? I'd said. Goodles, she had said. What? Goodles. The building was big, all concrete and steel, like a deserted club from a 90s movie. At the end of a long hallway, a figure emerged. It sped toward us until it was a short woman in leggings and a scowl, the boss. One of the first things I noticed at the House of Blues Anaheim was that the boss did not like me. I took this personally until clocking she did not like anyone. Employees included her son, her brother, and her best friend. Without a hello, she pointed to Vanessa. So, she began, you're gonna go over there with him, pointing to her son, and you, she squinted at me. Forever short on time, the boss had a habit of leaving before the end of her sentence. You go over. The boss's best friend was Slovakian, I think. That's who I'd been assigned to. I was distracted talking to her because it was a lot to step into, just like that. This was a whole new job, and there had been no icebreakers or introductions. The boss's friend called herself a veteran in reference to parties and their planning. Apparently, some 3,000 plus guests had RSVP'd as attending, and she said this like that's a small number. She told me that our job was tinsel. We had 5 hours to wrap it around the entire mezzanine balcony. Halfway into setup, some Goodles employees finally arrived. They wore matching turquoise jackets with patches and pins that captured their self-described brand of weirdly joyful magic. I helped unload their candy-colored boxes of macaroni, hoping one of them might ask me a question. They were youngish. If I'd never quit my corporate job, we could have been peers. Judging by their clean sneakers, they were probably in the marketing department. We would have all been on the digital team, standing desk mates. Once the display table was covered in flavors like Shella Good and Twist My Parm, I noticed some leftover squeezy cheesy. Yo, I hinted. Think I could take some of these home? A 30-something with a peace sign pasta pin blinked at me. She eyed the cart, then the rest of her team. They nodded. Yeah, take whatever. I grabbed as many pasta boxes as I could palm. Y'all got any boiling water? I tried. And I thought I'd heard a laugh. We were connecting, perhaps. I honed in on the one with tattoos and a mustache. Pointing at his embroidered patch of a smiling noodle, I tried speaking again. Rad, I said. A word I don't often say. But he didn't know that, and he did not respond. Everyone was pretending like I had spoken nothing to no one. What was happening? I hadn't said one good thing out loud all day. This wasn't like me. No one here knew that I was fun. No one here really even knew me. I was hungry, I realized. Where were the free snacks, Vanessa? This whole event was about food. They hadn't even offered us water. In search of something edible, I did a lap. Milling about were the videographers, the DJs, the pretzel bite girls. I followed one backstage and she led me into the green room. Inside, squeezed together on a teeny tiny small couch, sat a group of women in prom dresses. The fact that they couldn't all fit had them laughing and clapping, and it made me miss my friends. Where was Lily? I asked if they'd seen her. They hadn't. Then I asked which group they were with. I was shocked to hear that they also worked for the boss. I'd never noticed them. Where had they been? Hiding, they told me. They were all sharing one can of Coke. They'd found it in the mini fridge. Last one, sorry. I wanted them to offer me a sip so bad. But they were all huddled up in their own friendship world, debating which app to order food from. I pled, you really think they're not gonna feed us? The one placing the order didn't even look up from her phone. Girl, you're not getting a pretzel bite. Then there was a knock at the door. They shushed me like a high school house party. Another knock. The stowaways looked at their feet. I'd always been the one to talk to the cops. I opened the door and it closed quickly behind me. There she stood, arms folded, the boss. All day she'd maintained that we were behind schedule. Now, guests were arriving in less than an hour, Goodle's C-suite any minute, and the entire entryway was still a total mess. But she'd gathered the troops, and I was delighted to finally see my friend Lily. We hadn't been able to talk shit all day. The boss shushed us. All these boxes? She pointed at mountains of cardboard that blocked off the red carpet that was actually purple. Unbox them, she demonstrated, ripping open a taped box with her bare hands. Then she pulled out a baby blue rubber tote bag. It was croc-like and half her size. These bags are the goodie bags. You shelve them. She swung it at the wall and it bounced off a display case, contents spilling. I laughed. You! The boss stared at me. From the kangaroo pouch of her sweatshirt, she pulled out a pack of tinsel. I need these shelves draped. Guests will want their bag when they enter. Guests don't get bag until they exit. You cover them up. I nodded. She repeated like we had this joke where I was a stupid dog. Tinsel shelf, hide bag. Shaking the tinsel like a chew toy, she growled, doesn't gotta be perfect, just gotta be done. Under the boss's patrol, Lily opened the boxes, Vanessa stacked the bags, and I tinseled the racks. We fell into a quiet, desperate rhythm, too hungry to really laugh. Plus, we were cold. Outside, it had begun to really rain. The quicker we worked, the warmer we got. I forced myself from the tinsel. I had agency. I didn't even work for Goodles. I snatched a swag bag and hid behind a huge display box of macaroni. Contents included uncooked noodles, probiotic powder, pimple patches, a can of cold brew, a packet of matcha, a packet of matcha vitamins, and a 32-ounce carton of what looked to be potable milk but was actually dish soap. No food. Back on the floor, they'd kicked into overdrive, all cardboard cleared, bags shelved. At the end of the purple-red carpet, an elaborate balloon garland hung above fresh corsages and multicolored boutonnieres. The boss ordered us backstage to change, but I slowed as the first guests arrived. They had to be the Goodles execs. When they oohed, the boss's mouth did something like smile, and I felt my tail wag. Monochrome suits of blue and pink, all candy-colored like their pasta boxes. The chiefs, they moved like a pack, a handful of wild berry Skittles, nodding, applauding, tasting the rainbow. Gee, was I famished. I'd been distracting hunger with visions of my future prom wear, but as it turned out, that was just for the dancers and the producers. Vanessa and my only costume was a Goodles t-shirt. They said that we could keep them, but I felt a little disappointed. Lily was backstage changing into one of those gowns. We love dress up, and I couldn't help but wonder if her costume status might result in respect and therefore food. Alas, it was not so. In the green room, we blinked at each other in the mirror. My friend Lily is one of the prettiest girls in the world, but you would never know it in that dress. It was a kind of jealous brides force on hot bridesmaids, a dress no high schooler had or will ever wear to prom. The cowl neck hung so low I could see half of each nipple. When she bent, I could see the whole. Full tit, in a way that was somehow devastatingly not sexy. I don't think it fits, she said. I could only nod. Very soon it was her job to greet guests at the door, outside, in the rain. I squeezed her hand. It was already cold. This was not good. I started checking all the racks of Fashion Nova until I found a strapless small, a muted green I could only describe as ugly. I zipped it up. She couldn't even look in the mirror before sprinting off to her new station. The room was clearing out. I stared back at myself in my new purple t-shirt. My face looked different. Bad. I didn't look like that this morning. Had I aged? I looked older. The rain had poofed my hair, which also made me look younger, but in the bad way. I was supposed to greet people like this? Wait, what was I supposed to do? Outside, throngs of adults queued below tents in the rain. They had to really love Goodles. The boss shoved a heaving plastic bag full of sparkly rainbow wristbands at me. I'm going to speak a little bit faster because I got 5 minutes until I wrap it up. Pointing across the outdoor mall, she said, "Take these," then turned on her heel and left. I could just make out her son across the way by the parking garage. We had worked together earlier, carrying boxes for a while, but had failed to connect. Not for my lack of trying. My humor was not his, it seemed. He was waving. I really wanted my jacket. I huffed a few sharp, deep breaths before sprinting through the heavy rain. More guests waited in the covered parking lot. This was the hottest afters of Expo West, I heard from someone in front of the line. 2 lines slithered down Disney's best off-site garage. The boss's son explained one was VIP and the other was general admission. He poked my bag of wristbands. "These are for the VIP only, but unfortunately, like I warned her, this QR scanner needs Wi-Fi," so he exhaled, clearly stressed. "It's fine. We'll just have to eyeball the tickets. If it says 6:30, they're VIP. Any later is GA. They're not admitted for another hour. They stand in that line over there, and they'll get different wristbands, green, but yeah, okay, just worry about all that later. Just no ticket, no entry. And there are umbrellas if you need that." He'd done a good job, the boss's son. He held up a hand to speak privately into the walkie-talkie. Something about the broken QR scanner. Maybe he could take on the business one day. The walkie bleeped back. He began to repeat himself before getting cut off. I recognized that bark. My boss, his mom. He lowered the walkie-talkie, then threw his head back, blinking rapidly at the concrete ceiling. "Hey," I offered. He flinched. I nodded at his 2 lines. "You're doing a great job." He waited for me to say something else. When I didn't, he smiled like he might cry. I looked away and decided to forgive him for not laughing at my jokes earlier. At the front of the VIP line was a man in a navy fleece vest. Behind him were 4 other men with the exact same vest and hairline. Most guests were either dressed like their product or for prom. The embroidered cow over their hearts told me the former. It was 6:29 p.m. We had a minute. I leaned toward the first man, the clear leader. "Are you milk guys?" He glanced up from his Apple Watch. "Excuse me?" I laughed preemptively and repeated myself. "Milkmen. Are you in milk?" He stared. My run through the rain had drenched my purple Goodles tea. Maybe he couldn't hear me. My teeth were chattering. I pointed to the cow logo on his vest. "Milk? Cheese?" He squinted. "We're supplements. Bovine collagen. Do I show you my ticket? We're VIP." He was holding the little screen on his wrist toward my face. I squinted at the scattered squares of black and white. Then I checked my Casio, 6:30. When I gave him a VIP wristband, the men behind snickered. He put it on and let his wrist go dramatically limp. His whole team erupted in laughter. He was their boss, but he was a jokester too. I wanted to be in on it. It was a gay joke, right? Because the wristband was rainbow or sparkly. I wasn't judging, I just wanted to understand. One of the subordinates wiped at his eyes. That's how hard he'd laughed. I missed my friends. I passed out more wristbands, fake scanning QR codes. Amongst the VIP guests, I noticed a quirky blazer trend. Colored to match the brand, green for the Pickle Girls, a popcorn company wore off-white. 2 women had matching pullovers with one big ode on it, or some other ancient gray, and it was hard to tell out of scale like that. What? They were the first to ask me about pizza, and I said I did not know. The next guy wore purple suspenders and snapped them as he too asked about pizza. I said I knew nothing about pizza, goddammit. I was still starving. Should I get into pizza stuff? Okay, I'll get through one more section, but I will finish early and then you should buy this and read it in full. It was right around then that the pizza did in fact arrive. "Hi, sorry we're late," exclaimed a blonde elder millennial. She carried a stack of pizza boxes with her coworker, who was so short I could only see her Grey Goose sneakers. She had to lean her tiny neck around the tower of pizza to speak. "Where's the station for VIP? We're Hummingbird. Here to pass out the pizza." She had a sharp brunette bob. Petite and scary. She looked around. I looked around. I guess I was the person to ask. Hi, I smiled. The smell of pizza was intoxicating. "Yeah, so this is the VIP area. But yeah, it's weird. No real station. QR scanner's broken. Pretty minimal setup. I don't actually know where you're meant to put those, sorry." I tried to say it in a way where I was not to blame, like Goodles had really messed up. But my t-shirt said Goodles. More women arrived holding stacks of pizza. The petite brunette whispered and all eyes darted my way. They held me responsible. "Sorry, ladies," I continued. I wish they had a table or something. Emphasis on they. I tried to think of something else to say. Never in my life had I needed a group of women to like me more. The ladies turned over a trash can and were using it like a table, handing out slices to impatient VIPs. As guests pushed their phones in my face, I tried to think of some sort of sentence I could say to turn it all around. A compliment? Too desperate. "Hey," I shouted over the VIPs. "Tell me about your pizza." The expo had hosted a well-attended pitch workshop. They could go on, but the short brunette just shrugged and took a call. Her subordinate, the blonde, was less comfortable with silence. "I don't really know," she offered. "Cheese or pepperoni, I think?" I considered this. Then, prepared to lie about living in Anaheim, I asked if they were local. "No," laughed the blonde. "Oh," I stammered. "So where can I buy your pizza?" "You can't." laughed the blonde again. We're marketing. She pointed to the hummingbird on the box. We do bespoke branding and social advertising, mostly micro-influencers. I shivered and she squinted. Girl, it's raining. Where's your jacket? A violent impulse flashed before my eyes. I blinked it back. She didn't know. They were keeping it from me. Locked away in the HOB dungeon, that's where. Enough with the pleasantries. I pointed to her box. Can I please... Oh my God, girl, she gushed. Duh. I lunged toward the pizza, abandoning my posts. My hands were full of wristbands I stuffed into my pockets. VIPs at the front of line started calling out for me. I could hear, but I could not care. They could all wait. No one here even knew my name. I took as big a bite as I could fit. Lena? I nearly choked. Mouth full, I turned. It was the boss's son. He'd opened the line for GA. Hey, I shouted. Turning back to my slice, I folded it in half. Just one sec. I stuffed the pizza into my cargo pants pocket. In my Goodle shirt, I wiped my oil-slick mouth. Then, still chewing, I grabbed another slice. The brunette had returned from her fake phone call. She laughed. Okay, love that for you. I hope you die, midget. Oh God. I'd finally unleashed my hunger and it raged. No one was safe. The boss's son called for me again. I kneeled to tie my shoe and instead choked down the slice in my hand. Back at my station, people were still queuing, rain still pouring, but I had eaten. And a little was still left in my pocket. Something to think of as guests got more rude, which you can read about when you read the full piece in the big one, issue 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. We have 2 readers left for you tonight, and the next is future contributor. So look out for Big One 4. Please welcome to the stage Tess Pollok.
Hi. Oh, Joe. Yeah, could you just bring it down a tiny little bit? Oh, thank you. I can do it myself. Okay, so I'll be reading a flash fiction / essay that I wrote for this book, which is full of art, so it's all responses to the artworks. I don't think I can show everyone here the art, but if anybody wants to see it after, just hit me up and I'll show you. So this is today Saturday? I accidentally order 2 Bellinis at brunch and stare into their creamsicle glisten. The slime of creation, the visceral excess of art and identity, ooze. Zia holds out her phone, and I lean over the table to look at colorful and deranged character actors of ourselves from the night before. We bow into our poached eggs, into the ordinal reassurance of Genesis, that the world was made for us, and eat in fastidious agreement that Candy is the most sick and insecure girl we've ever met, the least human type of person. After brunch, we visit Candy at the store where she works, and I try on a hat. It looks papal, I say to the mirror. It looks mentally ill, says Zia. It looks like ears, says Candy. We agree the hat is remarkable for traversing so many unexpected territories, but I can't buy it because it's $450. I cautiously replace the hat on its stand. Meaning is not in the banality of our bodies, but in the purposeful distinctions made by our spirits. I part ways with Zia outside the store and wander back to my apartment, enjoying the total nuclear freedom of my life. I am briefly tormented by a single deleterious thought. I used to be better. The impotent flinging of the past tense. Supremely, God speaks his glory in the shredded flesh of the crucified. But people who are crucified typically die of asphyxiation, not from their wounds, but from the weight of their lungs against their chest. Around noon, I see cats with Delaney, and afterwards we have sandwiches in the park. I just don't get why they're cats, she keeps repeating in a state of post-traumatic shock. It was a bottomless theoretical, like asking how many minutes were in the ocean. Picturing Delaney in the theater, unable to process why the cats in Cats were cats, I realized she probably had a more enjoyable experience than I did. I successfully hurdled the cats aspect of Cats in the opening scene, only to be dragged feet first through a carnival of body horror. Delaney never cleared the first jump and sat there in blissful ignorance. Critics ask, if Cats wanted to be good, why wasn't it better? Delaney asks, if cats wanted to be good, why wasn't it Casablanca? As someone with chronically low self-esteem, I understood the envelope of fate was sealed for everyone. Zia and I don't hang out anymore, Delaney muses. She downgraded me from friend to roommate. Delaney bites into her sandwich with too much enthusiasm, and sopping cuts of meat and sauce dribble out the back, thrown across her tennis skirt like an acid attack. A contemporary singular reproduction of Genesis, wherein meaning doesn't illuminate us from within, but splatters us from without. Milan Kundera wrote that life was a sketch, an outline of something, but he felt failed by his own choice of words, because a sketch is an outline, the groundwork for a picture, whereas the sketch that is our life is a sketch of nothing, an outline with no picture. After finishing our sandwiches, we walk a few lazy laps around the park. I step into freshly rolled asphalt and it grinds into the soles of my shoes, scores black trails of grit and slime into the pavement. I lean against the public restroom and do an ontological exhumation. Then I wait for Romy, who gets out of yoga at the same time that Delaney has to go to work. Romy materializes across the street and bounces across the lawn with a sweet green bowl. Candy sucks, she says in between mouthfuls of salad. Candy is just the worst. Why? She's always too busy to hang out, she says. She's always like painting her nails or doing her hair. I laugh at her inflection and do a bit about how misogynist she sounds. I pretend I'm a stand-up comedian from the Rust Belt. Women are such bitches, I say. Why are they always painting their nails and doing their hair? I tell her about my ex-boyfriend, how he threw his phone in the river and told me to do the same. I demurred. I thought the phone debate had been blown wildly out of proportion. I thought social media was ego-bruising fun, or it was an important part of the project of building a life you could feel safe inside. Everything I like is bad for me anyways, I say, gesturing for Romy to feed me a bite of her salad. Evening rushes over the park, and Romy has to go home early for her job. I FaceTime Eartha on the walk home. I've been diagnosed with every personality disorder, she tells me, and none of it's true. Actually, just stay the fuck away from me. It was another one of those conversations that was actually about something else, or we just wanted attention from each other for some reason. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tess. We'd like to invite up our final reader, Priya Kb. Priya, you ready? Okay.
I'm sweating real bad, guys. Hello. Yeah, okay, and I feel like I'm holding people hostage, but this will be quick, I swear. So I'm going to read this one little precursor to the piece, and then I'm going to read the piece in here. So this is pitch/proof of concept. There's not really much I want to say anymore. I haven't published a thing since I've fallen in love. This year I read Wuthering Heights, and I don't think it's worth it to keep trying because I think literature is over. I don't think most of the people who buy these kinds of magazines know how to read, but they all write. Why? The ones around me write for attention. I do too. If you write poorly, you must be writing for attention. If you write well, you are also probably writing for attention, but there might be other factors involved. Bad writing is a sufficient but not necessary condition for attention-based writing. So much of art is bad and always has been, and I'm sure we never knew it because its memory didn't last long enough to make it into whatever era's zeitgeist. But now we see it all, and so we know, and so we think it's over for writing/art/music/all of the above. We aren't supposed to be seeing it all, and seething over it and poring over it and reveling in its badness. It metastasizes into our writing. The more you critique or reflect or discuss it, all the closer to it you become. And these days, most of what we read is bad. It's people with a shameful amount of screen time trying to convince you to put down your phone and read something. And that something is usually just an amalgamation of whatever they saw on their phone. And so you go back to your phone after looking at this analog version of their phone, and so on and so forth. But there's good writing too. So why do we find it so much easier to circulate bad writing? I use it to fearmonger and make myself feel better. Very rarely do I read good writing, and I feel protective over what little good writing I find. I don't share it. Are there audiences for good writing anymore? And if there's no audience for good writing, where does it go? Phone down. I'm sorry, I feel like you guys can hear that, like, I'm shaking. Chills. Okay. Anyways. Yay! Okay, so this is my piece in the big one. You guys should buy it. May Noland. Beautiful art. But, anyways, let the dog walk down the stairs. You're my favorite arbiter. How do you guys say that word? Arbiter, right? Okay, thank you. You're my favorite arbiter of taste, she says. It was the last line of the piece she wrote, which felt more like a love letter or a long, excruciating hand job. I look up at her and smile to indicate I'm happy to be there. She looks like me if I hadn't had a wildly successful bout of anorexia in my sophomore year of college. It's good. It's rough, I say. I know, she says. It's good, I repeat. We sit in silence for a minute. I watch her open and close her mouth a couple times, trying to find words to fill a space that doesn't exist. Is it the title? Is it too on the nose? The title in question is, Please Don't Assess My Writing the Way I Know You're Assessing Everyone Else's Writing Right Now. Like, just read it and don't try and situate it into the culture, because I'm just doing me. It's a good title. It'd be an even better post. I think about taking her off my story to post it. Then I remember she already did post it. Of course. Bitch. I want to give you something real to think about. At the same time, I don't know if you deserve it, I tell her. I'm not even sure what I mean by that. I hit her vape and reflect for a minute. There is a dilemma, of course. If I give her something real or new, it becomes a common good in our shared marketplace of ideas. What are the chances she takes it and makes something better than me? Low, but possible. What are the chances she bastardizes it in my name? Highly likely. And, in fairness, what are the chances she creates something generative and authentic with a tasteful homage to yours truly? Your writing is purposefully derivational, I say, holding out my hand to exchange her vape for a lighter. My oral fixation is more of a performance than anything, but I can't let up now. I light a Capri, since it's basically like smoking hot air. I lean forward. You're forcing an attempt at satire to avoid authenticity. It's pulling you down. She nods solemnly. She lights her own Capri. We sit in another minute of silence. Can I read you another excerpt, she asks? Sure, I reply. I lean back and close my eyes, pretending that I'm pretending to listen. She starts again. Put your finger on something other than the pulse. It's going to swell and move just like it, and you can press on it till it bursts. Unlike the real thing, which will move ahead and behind you constantly, until it wears you out, and also tells you the shoes that you bought off that one girl who swore they were so still in style, fugly, very. Everyone hated them. And every photo you post is 2 weeks past its prime. The high exposure flash era is over, and your post-ironic pastiche is gauche. Where is your authenticity? As if. I yawn audibly. She takes it as an insightful comment. I think I see her write something down. Her style irks me because it's not a style at all, but it's exactly what she wants to be doing. It's also what I want to be doing, kind of. I haven't quite done it, but when I do it, I'll be doing it better. Every flyer, DM, poster, offhand remark at another shitty gallery opening, every screenshot, text post, and every circulating image collected for use. Nothing untouched, but still so removed. And so vague. You're clinging to the indefinite you, I tell her. I know, but it's my trademark, she replies. Your what? My, literary trademark, she insists, showing her first sign of exasperation all night. Right, I say. Let the dog walk down the stairs. Right. I think about what I have to do back home. I'll have to go feed my dog soon. He's on a new diet. Raw octopus and dried squid from one of those complex feeding mats for mental stimulation. He's supposed to be a fishing dog, but I never taught him how to swim. Retrieving preserved seafood in between plastic grass wedges is a close second. I briefly wonder if he'd like her writing. He'd probably find it funny. He's not very smart, but he is clever. Do you ever get bored of your own work, I ask? Or are you one of those people who can read it again and again, getting off on their own words? Right then, a large truck passes by, almost colliding with a motorcyclist. He's yelling curses as he veers to the curb. Something pops from the back of his bike once he skids to a stop, but he seems fine, I think. I don't hear her response. She opens and closes her mouth a couple of times as I fumble with a pack of gum. She settles on a question. Can you read an excerpt? I'll pay extra. 200 total? She nods in agreement. I scrounge around in my bag looking for something to please her. I'm not sure why she agreed to that, considering that most of the work I did have worth reading was already available on a variety of magazines, websites, and Instagram carousels that no one ever fully read. Certainly, I don't have anything worth paying for. Girls like her rarely care about things like that, though. I know because I'm just the same. But I'd never pay in money, which reeks of desperation. I guess she just doesn't have anything else to give. I pick up my diary/journal, which only gets used during bouts of psychosis or when I need to make a particularly private list. I open up to a page, a list dated April 2nd, 2021. It reads, to do. 1, brush teeth. 2, jack off. Video or thoughts? Vibrator? 3, brush teeth again. 4, drink 1 liter of water. 5, work out 20 minutes. 6, walk dog. 7, reply to emails. Only the first 2 are checked off. I close the journal. I can't share anything from it. I open up my phone. 7 messages from my roommate about the state of our sink. She thinks it's clogging because I trash eggshells in the food incinerator. I switch over to my notes app. I scroll. Here's something stupid, I tell her. She sits up. I sit up in response, then slouch back down out of habit. I start. If I write like I'm looking for your validation, it's because I am. If it's a copy of everything you've ever read, it's because it is. I won't make anything without you because I can't. She purses her lips and nods, reaching in her bag and taking out a slim wad of 20s, counting them out slowly until she gets to 200. In the prolonged silence, I move first to get up and push in my chair. She follows suit and then hands me the cash. The cafe inside is empty now. The barista wiping tables looks up at the two of us from behind the frosted glass. We smile at him. He smiles back, if not out of disdain, then envy. Can I email you more of my stuff, she asks. Sure, I reply, but I'm busy. I walk home in silence. When I come back, my dog is already asleep. I take out his frozen feeding mat and shake him awake. He eats lazily, not caring to hunt for all the fish stuck in between the chunks of plastic grass. I wish I had taught him how to swim. Thank you.
You guys, thank you so much for coming. We have 2 wonderful DJs. We have Perfect Angel Protection Force, and we have Daniel Keller. Buy a magazine. They're $25. There's pizza coming. It's Triple Beam, maybe? Stick around and hang out till whenever. I've been told you can hang out till whenever. Thank you.